Welcome back to Enlighten Up for episode 49. Shit snake moon cycles, raspberry beaver butt, and birth control. Oh yeah, today's episode is actually a request of one of you listeners. And so today we're going to talk about a lot of the food and supplement tips that Lisa and I have used over the course of our life, as well as some of the new ones that Brian's using, which is pretty much why we have the title of this episode. So stay tuned for that. But we also had a request for our thoughts on birth control from a spiritual perspective. So we're going to talk about that actually right in the beginning. We're also going to talk about body intuition, the 80-20 rule when it comes to good health versus bad health. And unfortunately, we realize that some of our discussions have turned into a bit of an anti-sex podcast, which we are not trying to say. We are not saying don't have sex, but there are all these things that are happening that we're learning more and more as we experience things and learn things, and we're going to share some of that with you because there's more reasons why you may want to be apprehensive about having sex or even just kissing anyone out there. So without further ado, let's jump right into the episode and find out what we all had to say. Welcome back to Enlighten Up, everyone. I am here with Lisa and Brian. Today, we've had a listener request topic of discussion, and it's something that Lisa and I have done a lot throughout our life. So we're happy to share all of our knowledge and experience with what has worked for us and what hasn't worked for us, and it pertains to our health, food, supplements, diet, and skincare. So Lisa, what was the email that we got?
It says, I'd be interested in learning more about your daily health routines. I know you have talked a lot about food, but I'd be interested to learn about other products you maybe have added or stopped using and why. And I'd also be interested to hear opinions about birth control, ideally not from a political point of view, but more spiritual.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you want to start with birth control?
Do I want to start with birth control? Like how I feel about birth control?
Well, this person's asking how we feel about it from a spiritual place. And, for my own experience, I don't really use birth control. I, at least in the pill form, the hormonal stuff. When I was really young and I started to become sexually active, my mom was like, oh, you should go on the pill and all that. And so I did. And I just had a really bad reaction when I came off of it for the first time. And it sent me, I had to actually be rushed to the hospital. And I was experiencing, it was during my first ovulation after I stopped taking the pill. And I remember being in the bathroom at my parents. I was still living with my parents. I think I was home from university. It was the summertime, I think. And I was in the bathroom, like blow drying my hair or something like that. And I just started to get really crampy in my abdomen, I guess around my ovaries. And I didn't know what was going on. And I just started to double over in pain. Like I fell to my knees to the floor. I felt my whole body going into shock, like starting from the extremities. So like my feet and hands started to get really numb, and it started to move up into my torso. And I was scared that I was like, my heart was going to explode. And it was really a scary experience for me. And so my sister happened to be walking past the bathroom. The door was open and she saw me on the floor and she's like, oh my God. And so she rushed me to the hospital. She got me in the car and she rushed me to the hospital. And I remember just being there on the highway as she's driving, thinking my heart's going to burst out of my chest. My heart's going to burst out of my chest. And so when I finally got to the hospital, things started to calm down, and it turns out my aunt had the same problem where when she came off birth control and she ovulated for the first time, she had the exact same experience that I had. And that scared me. That was really scary. And I just realized, like, I don't want synthetic hormones in my body, because I obviously know enough now. But even back then, I'm like, I just don't understand how synthetic hormones work with my regular hormones and how that affects my well-being. And plus, I don't know if you've ever been on the pill, Lisa, but my moods changed so much. I became an absolute water sprinkler, like, from my eyes. Like, I just couldn't stop crying all the time.
I'm like that all the time.
And I just didn't feel like me. I didn't know who I was. I actually didn't know who I was anymore when I was on the pill. My boyfriend didn't know who I was anymore. I felt like I was going crazy in my head because I was having these emotions that I wasn't used to having. And I just attributed it to being on the pill, the hormones. And so I just decided, like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not worth it to me. And obviously there are other ways to prevent, getting pregnant. But I just knew that these hormones were not the right way.
So what does that have to do? Oh, this is Brian, by the way, and I don't know anything about what we're talking about today. And so what does that bring that back to spirituality?
Well, I'll just say I was on the pill for a short time, but the reason I got off, I didn't really have any bad reactions, but the reason I got off was because I just intuitively knew that this couldn't be good for me. It just didn't make sense. I didn't like the idea of putting hormones in me, and it just wasn't natural, and I just decided it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I have never used anything that would disrupt my natural state. That is how I feel about birth control.
That's how you feel personally.
About birth control on a spiritual level, I don't have any problem with it.
It's an interesting question. I think it's hard to answer.
Yeah.
Well, some people are, vehemently against it, and they think it's killing a baby. Birth control, the Catholics don't think you're not allowed to use it, to use the rhythm method.
And that's a religious reason.
Those are religious.
Even though I think spirituality and religion gets confused. And I mean, I think that's one reason why it's a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I have
Is there a spiritual reason
why you shouldn't be on birth control?
Take birth control or not take birth control?
I mean, other than, to me, my body is a temple sort of thing, and I want to be at the highest vibration possible. And to me, that means not taking anything that's not natural, not putting anything that's not natural in my body or would disrupt my system. Like, there's some of those pills you can take now where you just don't even get your period.
Yeah, those scare
for
me.
3 months or something. That just is not...
Doesn't sound right to me.
Right. I mean, it's a natural good thing. You're releasing your body of toxins. Like, why would you not want to get your period? I think that birth control, I mean, I mentioned religion. There's a lot of people that have this programming and this belief that it's wrong. And am I less spiritual of a person because I use birth control? I think when it comes right down to it,
keep talking.
Spirituality is just being a true expression of yourself, and that we need to be able to make our own choices.
I think that's a good point.
I think that's
well,
it's
and
a nice
also
way to look at it. Spirituality is an expression of our true self. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
But also, like, Lisa, you and I intuitively knew it wasn't right. And that's something that strengthens, as you start to pay attention more to your own inner knowing, as you stop listening to all the outside voices and you start going within. And for me, it was just something that I just wasn't willing to compromise on with my own health of my body. And I think the health of our body is a third of our spirituality. We talk about raising our vibrations like you did, like you didn't want your vibration to be low. You know, when you put anything synthetic in your body that's not meant to be there, then that's going to work against your health, your body. And like, that's, you know, when you hear about this in the spiritual community all the time about the ascension process, you cannot ascend without paying attention to the physical, because our body is, when you think about the Holy Trinity, when you bring it into spirituality, it's the body, mind, and soul. And so if you were to only work on the mind and the soul and completely forget about your body, there's no way you could ascend, because you're not looking at it from a holistic point of view.
I think that's an interesting, what you just said, what popped into my head. You said you were talking about putting synthetic things into our body. You didn't use the word hormone. You said putting synthetic products into our body. And it immediately made me think, because obviously I'm not putting, well, I shouldn't say obviously, because men nowadays take testosterone, which is synthetic, or can be, I think. But it made me initially think of supplements.
That's why I don't want synthetic supplements.
But it's an interesting thing, because the idea is tied with health. You know, take these supplements, be more healthy, but you're then putting something synthetic in your body. So then do you get into, are all supplements bad? Are only synthetic supplements bad? Because theoretically, you can get everything that a supplement is giving you with natural products. Now, it may take more effort, it may take more money, it may take more time, but you can eat certain foods, you can grow your own whatever and eat it, and that's going to give you anything that you should be able to get from a supplement.
True?
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
so.
yes and no. No, yes and no. I'm going to disagree with some of that, because you have to understand, where do your minerals and vitamins come from? It comes from the soil, and the soil is extremely depleted here of nutrients. And so there's only so much our food can actually grasp from the soil. So yes, in a perfect world, in theory, you ideally would like to be getting all of your nutrition from food, but the earth has been raped so badly, the soil has been raped so badly that it's hard to say, how much of those nutrients are really still in your food. And
with conventional farming, yes, but couldn't you, and I'm just throwing this out here as a better alternative to any supplement, if you were in control of all of your own food? So that means you buy your own land, or you have your own land, you have your own farm, which means you're in control of making sure that soil is healthy. Because there are, as a landscape architect, this is something I became aware of in the last couple of years. There are farming techniques available that are very holistic, and that help with the whole life cycle. And especially in terms of, we just watched
it on the Magic Pill,
on this incredible documentary about being in a state of ketosis called The Magic Pill on Netflix. Check it out. That it was a vegan woman, correct? And she wanted to grow her own vegetables, and she ended up becoming
a farmer.
But she ended up becoming an omnivore. She was a vegan, and she started eating meat, because as she discovered the process of farming, you can't have, and I think this is to your point, Nicole, you can't have the nutrients into the vegetables without the chickens and the ducks roaming around doing certain things, and
the pig, she said,
and pigs, and they're eating certain bugs or insects, and they're adding nutrients, and rotating, and there's all these different things that are happening. And it's something that I had also learned working with a farmer in Beijing who was trying to change the way farming is done by growing on mounds. Because if you look at a traditional farm, it's flat. So your surface area is, X times Y. But if you mound up the earth, and then you have these rows of tall mounds, you now have greatly increased. You've almost doubled the surface area of what you can grow upon. And so anyway, there's really fascinating techniques to make sure we are in control of it. So yes, if you're looking at just getting your products from a store, yeah.
I think
Earth has been raped.
But yeah, and I think realistically, most of the population doesn't have the opportunity to have their own farm. So there's
farmers markets.
Yeah. So you can't be sure. But I mean, I recently, Brian and I both went to a naturopath, and I had my blood tested for, hormones, and I did a vitamin panel and all that type of stuff because I was feeling really tired and hormonal, and I figured there was, some things out of balance. So you can have, you can have a test done to find out what you're low in, and I found out I was like super low in B and super low in iron, and I'd been taking B supplements for years.
Synthetic.
And I didn't realize, clearly they were, but they're so tricky the way they label things that it's really hard to tell. So I now only buy vitamins that my naturopath recommends that she told me are good. So I think that's something.
What brands are those? We should put that in the liner notes. Some of the brands that
we know are good.
That I know Nicole has done a lot of research into this in terms of what she buys, and then what we've been guided to buy on the naturopath. We should put in the show notes.
Yeah, we can do that for sure.
Yeah, and they're just suggestions so that people can go and look at that. And of course, like with anything, if there's anything you're uncertain about, always check with your doctor. But
well, hang on a second.
We had this discussion yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. And Lisa made a really, I think, great statement about what a doctor is, and just saying that is like
the perfect time to talk about it.
And it's, we started seeing a naturopath, and this is what they do. But go see your doctor. Okay, and I'm doing air quotes. Go see your doctor. That doctor is trained to treat you with medicine. And that's about it.
That's what they're trained to do.
So I don't know if I would recommend to our listeners, go see your doctor.
Well, I'm going to say this.
Go to Whole Foods and see a naturopath.
First of all, I consider my naturopath a doctor. She's a naturopathic doctor. So if someone were to tell me to go see a doctor, that's who I would choose to see. However,
but I don't know if that's what a lot of our listeners have access to. I don't know.
From a legal standpoint, though, you can't just start saying, go try this and go try that, and not get sued if something goes wrong. So, yeah, that's why I said it, because I'm protecting all of us. But from my own personal opinion, and this is my opinion, I would certainly not go to my own, like a medical doctor, a family doctor, for advice on, what I should or shouldn't be taking. I would go to my naturopathic doctor because I've had incredible success with her, and I trust her much more, especially with her knowledge of the body and how it works with food, with supplements, versus what you just said, not medicine.
I think naturopaths do a great job. And I think old Brian would have laughed at the idea of a naturopath. But what's really incredible...
But you've had a great experience.
The experience that I've had, that, I've been seeing keep in mind, and I mentioned this several episodes ago, I chose my doctor based on, not your typical Western doctor. That one, the guy that I, had in Boulder, and then my doctor that I had been seeing here in Denver before I moved to China. Again, not your traditional Western. The guy's actually Chinese, so trained in Eastern medicine. And still, I would go and say, very lethargic. I'm, every afternoon I'm tired, and I don't even remember what recommendations or suggestions were, but I had been saying this for a decade, always tired. And I say the same thing to a naturopath, and she just says, maybe you have worms. Take this.
Parasite.
Take this Mimosa pudica, which is great, by the way. And within a day of taking it, my energy was up, and it had started killing the worms, and I poo worms, and it's great and awesome.
Okay.
So I think what a naturopath did for me was really incredible, and I don't even know if I want to go see a real doctor, Western doctor, medical doctor. I don't know what word to use as a distinction.
But if you want what I said the other night is the way I've always, for most of my life, since I've, been probably 18 years old, the way I've thought about doctors is, and again, everything that we say here is only our opinion, as Nicole said. We're not
CYA.
Yeah.
Cover your ass.
We're not trying to tell anybody not to go to a doctor or anything like that. This is just our own personal experiences. But, even, raising my children, I've always thought of doctors as somewhere to go when I really feel like I need medicine. My kids would get sick, get a fever, we'd get, and I would use my intuition basically as a mother and my experience in getting ill to say, is this something that is probably going to need an antibiotic, or is this just a fever and a virus that's going to, work its way out? And I would only take my kids to the doctor if I really felt like they needed medicine. And I just think that maybe that's not the case with all doctors. There may be medical doctors, MDs, but right. But an MD, a naturopath's also an MD, yeah. An MD, right?
I mean, my doctor that I had in Boulder, he was, I think, that exception to the rule. He was very different. His first gut was not medicine. He would say, I'm going to give you here's all the possible treatments. I can sting you with bees, or I can give you a drug.
That's
what
great.
Do you want to choose?
But he didn't figure out your leaky gut thing.
I don't remember saying that back then. I was much, much younger. I was, mid-20s. One thing, because I really don't think I have a lot of deep knowledge on this topic that we're going to get into. I think in the not-so-distant future, you guys are going to start talking about a lot of products that I just don't know, because I basically do whatever Lisa tells me to do.
When it comes to that, let's clear.
Yeah, well, okay.
Definitely not everything.
But I think this is really interesting because I never thought it was a possibility. It's a kind of a gross topic. This idea of worms, and the reason I want to circle back to this is I actually gave the worms to Lisa.
Oh my God.
Well, this is really interesting. So the naturopath told us that the eggs from these worms are in my saliva. So exchanging bodily fluid with somebody, boom, you have eggs. Now Lisa, with a couple of weeks ago, started taking the Mimosa pudica, and there you go. There they are. We call them poo snakes. But it's a real thing. I mean, and our doctor, our naturopath said most people probably have them and they don't even know it.
She said because the eggs are in the soil in America, and a lot of people don't think that. They think when you're in America, you're not going to get these things that you get in other countries, right, traveling around the world or whatever. And she said it's growing more and more. Like, she cannot believe how many people come to her, and it's almost like she's just suggested to everybody, and 80% of them end up having these roundworms.
Well, and she even went so far as to talk about a very aggressive way to clean your produce. It was like, wow, I don't know. I mean, I don't even remember.
To get rid of it was like
to just scrub
them in hydrogen peroxide for 15 minutes,
right,
and then scrub them with something else.
Right, and then make sure you're always peeling off with a with a carrot peeler or whatever. Just peel the outside layer off and only eat the inside. And
well, that's kind of crap, because a lot of the vitamins and nutrients are in the peels.
Yeah, we don't do that. There's another product, a natural supplement that you take to kill off the eggs of these roundworms.
Right.
So, we also take that. But, I mean, I guess it's just something that if you really want to know where your body's at health-wise, I mean, I would personally recommend that you get, what is it called, a vitamin panel or whatever, so that if you are really deficient in some areas and not others. I think if you're really serious about, your health and wanting to, maybe raise your vibration, this is a spiritual thing, that you have to be really conscientious of what you put in your body and try to balance things out. It's really, difficult, especially if you've been eating any sort of processed foods or,
right,
plus, there's so many topics that we can talk about, from GMOs.
But I guess my point in saying that, well, I mean, we started out talking about sex basically, and you don't know you don't always know the health of the people you've been with, and I
gave you worms,
and
oh God, this is so depressing.
but understanding that, I lived in China, and that's more than likely where I got them, or maybe who knows? I mean, who knows why I ended up with snakes? Let's call them snakes because it's less gross. And then I gave Lisa my snake.
You know what? I just have to say that this podcast sometimes is turning into like a anti-sex podcast because we're always talking about, people's energy cords that you can get having sex with them, and now
DNA floaters.
Right? I mean, you think you're just getting the worm, but you're really getting the worms.
Yeah,
I did just say that.
So many more things than STDs.
I mean, there's STD, energy cords, worms. Just don't sleep
DNA.
With anybody.
Yeah. Oh gosh, man.
But it's even kissing. I mean, that's what she said.
She said kissing.
It's not even sex. It was just you can contract these little
roundworm eggs, which are
like kissing.
Obviously, they're microscopic.
Right. So does that mean sharing a spoon?
Yeah.
I mean, how it's not a germ that can die in room temperature air or whatever.
Well, so to go back to this whole idea of parasites, because this is actually something that is a big problem. So when I was in my mid-20s, I learned how to analyze live blood cells, which is completely different than getting your blood taken at the doctor, because they actually kill the sample when it comes through a needle. But I would learn how to take someone.
Really?
Yeah, the blood gets killed. So what I would do is I would take a finger, I would prick someone's thumb or finger and gently allow the blood to come to the surface and take a drop of it on a slide, and so that it's still alive. And then I would analyze it under a dark field microscope, and that would allow me to see how the blood looks like in your body. So
all the things are still moving, whatever is in it.
It's all moving. All the cells are still moving on the slide. It's wild. And so one of the things that I saw were a lot of people have parasites in their red blood cells. And I could see them. And what most people don't realize is where they get them from is from their pets. And
sure.
So if you have pets that go outdoors at all, then you likely have parasites. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that Brian's talking about, but the ones that I had them because I had cats. And the way that I was able to remove them from my blood, and this is what I saw. I analyzed my blood, and then I tested it 2 months later, and I was able to get rid of all of my parasites using black walnut tincture. Now, what's really interesting about parasites, because we've talked about negative entities and human batteries and these parasitic entities from a spiritual standpoint, it also is obviously from a physical standpoint. So when you have these parasites in your body, they can't thrive without your energy. And so many people suffer from this chronic fatigue syndrome, or what they think is chronic fatigue. And really, a large part of it could be due to you might have parasites that are lowering your energy. Like you said, as soon as you started taking it, your energy levels went up.
Well, I also had 2 types of parasites. So she immediately had me do this. I had to do a test. It wasn't a blood test. It was I had to send in my stool sample. And she said, you have these 2 types of parasites. And they've got me on a whole – I can try the black walnut oil too, but this is a whole regimen of different essential oils that I take tied to the moon cycle. So the parasites are more active as there's a full moon. So
it starts with a new moon.
Oh,
and it goes for 20
really?
days.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
So I only take it for 20 days, 10 days before the full moon, and 10 days after the full moon. And then there's this other one that I take that starts one day before the full moon and ends one day after. It's only a 3-day. So, and then I do that for 3 months. So there are ways and you know, to deal with it.
That's very interesting that they're tied into the moon cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're more active.
There's this guy here in Denver, actually, that specializes in these parasites and not just the worms, but the parasites and the worms that are within us. And he makes these pills, and they have their own company, that some sort of botanical company where they're doing all these tinctures with the essential oils. And that's what they have discovered, is that it's driven by the moon. You know, actually, they gave me, by becoming a member of their, you know, company or whatever, they gave me this PDF that has all this information about parasites and worms. It's probably a 40-page PDF. We can put it on the website for download.
Oh, okay.
You know, and I just think it's important. If the thing, like, we watched The Magic Pill, like, on Netflix. It was a great movie, and it just really got me thinking even more and more about just the programming that we've received and what we're taught to believe about what's healthy and what's not healthy. And when you go to your doctor and you have, you know, maybe chronic fatigue syndrome, keep in mind if they're a medical doctor and they've been trained in medicine, the answers they're going to give you are going to be take medicine.
Right. And they're not going to ask you what are you eating.
They're not going to ask you what you're eating. And you know, I feel so strongly about the fact that if there's any health problem you have, absolutely anything, like even MS, I heard, is tied to leaky gut, which blows my mind. From Alzheimer's to, you know, MS and all these different things, you can go right back to what you're putting in your body can actually end up cancer. You know, you can cure cancer just by what you're eating.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big part of this whole process with the naturopath. For me, it turns out that I have leaky gut. It turns out that I should be gluten-free. I shouldn't have any type of gluten. She did a special panel, and she came to this within a few months of meeting me, and I had been talking with traditional doctors
for years,
for a decade or more, and I should have been not eating certain foods for a very long time.
Right.
And we're even going to take out dairy now. I've stopped eating gluten, and now I'm taking out dairy out of my diet. It's
no truffle cheese.
Doesn't it just suck? I can't eat anything good anymore.
Oh my God, I just don't know if I can let go of my cheese.
I know. See, and Lisa and I had this conversation. It's like, it tastes so good. It's not that I'm addicted to it. It tastes really, really freaking good.
And it tastes really, really good with wine.
Yes.
Right. But it's worth it for your health. I mean, when it comes down to it, you have to, I know everyone's going to love to hear this. You have to love yourself, you know, and loving yourself means listening to your body and taking care of your body, you know, and I know a friend of mine's husband, she was tested gluten-free. She had to be gluten-free. And then, so she got him tested and they told him he needed to be gluten-free, and he won't do it. He said that it disrupts his, you know, work life with the guys, the type of business he has. He's always going out for business lunches and happy hours and things. And he doesn't want to be like, you know, the pansy who can't eat a burger with a regular bun or whatever. And, you know, when you're thinking that way, you know, spirituality is about the expression of your true self, right?
Right.
And not trying to fit in these molds of everyone else. So, you know, it's different for everybody. You're a unique individual. And I think if I had to tie food and health and spirituality all together, I would just say, you know, listen to who it is that you are and honor that. And pay attention to your body.
You know, we're also very lucky in terms of where we live, that we can do a lot of these things. You know, Colorado and Denver and Boulder area is very progressive. I'm sure there are some of our listeners that, you know,
live in the Midwest
in small towns, and wouldn't have access. I mean, for me, finding out that I needed to be gluten-free, I couldn't live in a better place. There are restaurants we can go to that are gluten-free menus, and there are restaurants that are completely gluten-free. It's not hard at all for me to be gluten-free. But if I lived where I actually grew up, holy hell, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and to tie it all back into, like, to take this back to the beginning, because I want to make sure that we answer this listener's question, when we're talking about birth control and spirituality, it's got to feel right to you. If you feel like it's right for you to take birth control, then that's what you should be doing. But for me personally, it didn't feel right to me. It obviously clearly did not agree with my body. And I mean, it only took one trip to the hospital for it to be like, that's it. That's the last time. But every time we make these choices, whether it was through the birth control or whether it's through deciding to see a naturopath at the age of 20 versus seeing a medical doctor and starting to take more natural supplements and use homeopathic remedies and using essential oils and start paying attention to what I'm eating, just as Lisa said, these are things that are intuitively felt right to me, and to do anything differently didn't feel right. And so that's how you kind of start to really strengthen your own connection to your higher self, your inner knowing, and that kind of like divine guidance that's waiting for us to retrieve it if we're willing to listen. And I
think the key is listening.
Mm-hmm.
If really you do have to listen to your own body, and if it doesn't feel right, then I've learned that big lesson just with my back. I had, the first 30 podcasts, I think I talked about how bad my backache was, and the backache ended up being a blessing because it's taught me to listen to my body more, because I tend to want to push through pain and stuff like that. And
I'm gonna challenge that, and maybe this is two different sides of the coin when you say you have to listen to your body, because when you said that, it made me think, I think you have to want to ask first. If you're not interested in asking the question, it doesn't matter if you're going to listen. And I almost wonder if that's where it starts. If you don't want to know anything, if you don't want to ask the question, it doesn't matter.
Well, and that's actually one of the biggest parts of the programming, is that we don't question things. We just allow ourselves to be spoon-fed.
Mm-hmm. That's the crux of it right there. It's just... And I've talked about this a lot recently, because it's just something that I've just really understand more now than I've ever understood before, is the programming and the lies that we're being fed, like from, the sugar industry, paying people off and lobbying and all this to make it look like, oh, sugar's not what's causing disease, it's it's fat that's causing it, or and we have this trust in our government that vaccinations are safe, this is what you're supposed to do, and that's not the case. And when you start looking at all these things, like the commercials on TV, it's fat free, this is now healthy for you, or even the triangle, the
food pyramid.
The food pyramid is wrong.
Upside down.
It's totally upside down. It's totally wrong. A friend of mine who had a heart problem ended up having to go to like physical therapy after he had the stent put in his heart, and he was just blown away at what they were recommending he eat. Like things including like margarine.
Oh God.
And he just was like, the American Heart Association, the stuff that they're feeding you isn't the truth. And I think it's a really, really big red pill to swallow.
There've been a couple of things for our listeners to watch if they want more information. You mentioned the sugar. That was another
Netflix called Sugar Coated.
Called Sugar Coated. That's a great one to watch.
But there's a lot of information out there about these things, and it's just, you have to do your own research. And like Nicole said, like Brian said, ask the question. Nicole said, do what feels right for you. But, spirituality, I don't think there's any the beauty of it is there's no right and wrong. There is no God up there judging you like, yeah, you're not going to ascend because you ate meat or you use birth control, or it's your own journey, and I don't think there's any right or wrong. Like,
doesn't that journey also start with a question? You can't become enlightened. Yes, you have to listen to what your higher self is saying, but you have to.
Well, you have to open the door. You have to be willing.
There has to be a first communication with that higher self and say, hey, I have a question. And then you need to listen to it.
And what often happens is through, and this is an example, this isn't mainstay, but what happens is that you have people who go through life and eat unhealthy, don't think about what they're putting in their body, just keep consuming of what they've been told to consume, and then one day they wake up and they're told they have, say, cancer. And it's a come to Jesus moment many times where it's a wake-up call, and that wake-up call was purposely put in to your life path, whatever it was, so you could experience whatever the reasons are. Perhaps it was to experience, what it means to be really unhealthy and how to recover back from that. And maybe whatever and oftentimes our trials and tribulations, our biggest life lessons are what we're meant to help teach others in this life. And so who knows why, like maybe, for some people who just are so unhealthy and then all of a sudden like they have this wake up one day and it's like, what am I doing to myself? Like it just could be like you wake up and you just don't want it anymore and you don't know why, and you just start asking questions. It's like it can come out of the blue instantaneously. But there's just so many reasons as to why this is happening. But it all comes down to, like you said, Brian, there has to be a question or a willingness to initiate that process. And
on that, I think it was the Sugar-Coated movie, there was an athlete, a young 20-something-year-old athlete, extreme athlete who, worked out, personal trainer, watched what he ate and all that. And he realized that I think through maybe his girlfriend or workout partner, something about this whole sugar thing. And he went and got his blood test and realized he was pre-diabetic. Yeah. And the energy bars and the things that he'd been using during his workout, which he thought were healthy for him, were causing this pre-diabetic state. Mm-hmm. So, it's unbelievable to me. Like, there's nothing don't eat anything that's not natural. Like, if you can't recognize the word on the package, if it comes in a box, you probably shouldn't eat it. Honestly, any energy bars.
If it's designed to have a stable shelf life, then you shouldn't eat it, which basically means you should only be eating meats and vegetables.
Right.
Well, if it's on a shelf, it's already dead.
Right. So. And then cooked foods, that's something I've learned recently. I've always known it, but I guess I'm choosing now to adhere to it and really listen to is cooked foods. Like, once you cook your vegetables to a certain degree, whatever it is, 110 or something, you kill the vitamins in it. Mm-hmm. So, Brian and I have been eating more raw vegetables and salads and snacks with raw vegetables.
And they definitely taste better, but
yeah.
I mean, how many families? Well, I mean, it's all the same, rabbit's hole that they've already gone down. They're sitting around their dinner table and they think they're eating healthily because there's vegetables on their plate, but I mean, I grew up in the Midwest and my mom overcooked the vegetables. If they're not gray and soggy, how do you know it's a vegetable? So you get this pile of mush and it's like, okay, and then what?
Eat your vegetables.
And exactly, that's what I was going to say. What do all parents say? Eat your vegetables. But it's like,
what's the point?
Yeah, it's like,
okay,
give me one raw carrot. And...
Exactly.
Well, I wanted to offer the audience some of the stuff that I've learned through and this has not been through conventional school. This is through my own studying, separate courses that I've taken. And I learned a lot through my live cell analysis or live blood analysis under the dark field microscope. working with actually one of the top doctors in North America who studied this. And he taught me that, there are some staples that everyone can have in their so-called repertoire for supplements that will give them a pretty good leg up on the average person. And one of those things is that you want to take something that's alkalizing your blood. So, for instance, super cheap, you can find it anywhere, but baking soda is a really easy way to alkalize your blood. And what you can do is you just take like half a teaspoon in some water, and I would add like lemon juice to it, which will make it fizz. But it makes it a little bit more palatable to drink down. That is, if you were to have that every day, that is one way to keep your blood alkalized. Another way that I know you, Lisa, we both do this is we take apple cider vinegar in some water every morning. And I've actually had my cells tested recently by regular doctors, and they couldn't believe how alkaline, like, they're like, your cells are very alkalized. So I was like, oh, okay, my apple cider vinegar is working.
Yeah, it doesn't taste good, but I just do a couple teaspoons in the water and just chug it like a shot.
Yeah. So alkalizing your blood's one thing. Another thing that everyone should be taking is vitamin C. Now you need to find a non-synthetic vitamin C supplement. And
the capsules the capsules are always better than tablets.
That's what your naturopath said, right?
Yeah, the powder, because you want the powder form, not the hard coated form.
Yeah. So vitamin C is really important because almost everyone's deficient in vitamin C. Bees are really important, and as Lisa can attest to, not synthetic ones, because clearly that didn't help. Yeah. Okay, so then also a
calcium and magnesium.
Calcium, magnesium is important. If you can find a liquid calcium magnesium, for anyone who is up in Canada, I don't know if they sell this one in the States. I think they do, but I know this brand is really good, Genestra. Genestra is a great product brand. In fact, that's one of the brands that I would sell clients when they were having their blood analyzed. We knew it worked. We tested it. We saw the cells change. The blood got healthier using those products. So I know that that's a brand that definitely works. Now, CalMag, you want to take in the evening because it does make you a little sleepy. So don't be taking that in the morning. It's also, timing is also knowing when to take all your supplements. It's not like you just chuck them all down in one shot. Like, there are certain things.
I break mine out.
Yeah.
I try to take over 20 pills, but I have little packages and I take them throughout the day. Some I have to take on an empty stomach.
Some you have to take on an empty stomach. Sometimes some you have to take after food. Some you have to take with food. There's so many different things. And I totally get that it can become like, this scheduling nightmare for many people trying to figure it out. But once you kind of get into your own routine and it becomes habit, that's what it is. It's just habit now. And so it's totally worth it. The other thing that was said that everyone should be taking is a greens powder, some sort of greens supplement, whether it's wheatgrass or
spirulina is really good.
Spirulina, some sort of greens powder, because that also helps alkalize the body. But there's so many great nutrients and vitamins and minerals and everything in there that help work with the cells.
Why does it have to be a powder? Why can't you just have kale or spinach?
Or dandelion root?
You can, but like I said, the powder is a much more potent serving. You would have to eat like a ton of kale.
We figured that out.
Yeah.
I'd have to have like 4 large smoothies to equal 3 tablespoons of my powder.
Yeah. So this just helps you make sure you get like your vegetable servings in, and like it really helps with the body. So those were some of the things. And of course, anyone who has pets, black walnut tincture.
Mimosa pudica also does kill other parasites as well.
Yeah.
No, that's worms.
No, it said on the website that it killed other parasites. It didn't name what they were. I mean, but if you have the means and you're able to go to a naturopath and have your blood tested, that would be my recommendation.
More than just your blood test, though. There were so many tests that we did.
Yeah.
And actually, they even have nowadays, and it was so convenient, they come to your house. The phlebotomist comes to your house.
Yeah, that was nice. I had my blood drawn like 5 different times for lots of different tests to see what was going on. But I feel a lot better. I'm taking triple amount of iron and triple amount of B and a bunch of other stuff, but I have noticed that I have a lot more energy than I had before. So
that's all stuff that goes into your body. What about other stuff that I think is probably a bigger issue for women than men, that stuff you're putting on the outside of your body?
Yeah, I think that's really great. And I think that was part of our listener's question too, is not only what are you eating, but what type of products? Because I think a lot of people don't realize that your skin is an organ, and everything that you put on it goes right into your bloodstream.
Right.
And the cosmetic industry is...
Well, if you're gluten-free like me, you have to be... Some things have wheat
exactly.
in them, so...
Some lotions actually have wheat. But that and household cleaning products. So I know that for myself, I got rid of absolutely everything that wasn't natural as far as putting on my body or using products in my house. So a friend
of yours actually makes your makeup or lotion or something.
Yeah, I love, and Nicole uses it. She can attest to it. It's called Tilvee, Tilvee. But they have just amazing lotions for your face, and it will take years off of you. Nicole and I both experienced that.
But it's all completely natural.
And it's all completely natural.
Because one thing that's interesting about you, you're so sensitive to fragrances that are in products. Like you can't even use like a normal bar of soap. You'll just start itching. So you have to make sure it's taken.
I only use like an oatmeal soap with no fragrance. Before that I used Dove like for sensitive skin, but then I realized that even isn't
made from chemicals.
The greatest.
I guess all soap is made from chemicals.
So it's just the lauryl sulfates that are in things. You just have to be really careful about what you're putting on your body, especially if you're a woman that's wearing makeup every day or foundation. And
they also hide ingredients in plain sight, and that was something that I had to figure out. When I found out that I needed to be gluten-free, and then I found this website that just listed, here's all the things that, are glutinous, right? But then it said, you also have to watch out for these words that were
natural flavorings.
And natural flavoring was one. And it's just so interesting that they hide ingredients.
Oh, well, didn't we just find out last week, at happy hour, our friend told us that anything that says natural raspberry flavor on it comes from the anal glands of beavers.
Or raspberries. It comes from one of the two. It could come from actual raspberries, but it could also come from beaver butt.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And then house cleaning. So I would have to say, as a mother, this has always been a challenge for me. Many, many years ago, like probably 20 years ago, I found a company called Melaleuca. I think they were what do you call that? The multi-level marketing type company. I don't think they're in business anymore, but they did sell all natural cleaning products that I used. But it's been a challenge, especially when you're used to, okay, I know I can spray bleach on on my tub. I know it's going to make it white. And then you decide, I don't want to use bleach anymore. What am I going to do? So I've had to come up with alternatives, but you can Google natural cleaning solutions. And I mean, honestly, it'll probably save you a lot of money because most things can be cleaned with vinegar and olive oil and baking soda and lemon juice. So I would suggest that if you want to rid your house of
don't buy it, make
chemicals, make it, Google it. There's so much information out there. I used to use furniture polish I now make my own with lemon juice and vinegar and olive oil and put it in a spray bottle. It works great. Same with your floors. So you don't need to be spending all this money on Johnson & Wax products, basically, because they're not good for your health.
Yeah.
They're not good for you.
I believe that company is S.E. Johnson Wax.
S.E. Johnson
Just so we don't
Wax.
get sued.
What kind of stuff do you use, Nicole?
Well, so for like my shampoo and conditioner, I still kind of use Pantene. I'm not going to lie. But for my shampoo, I use this one. It's made out of Florida, but it's a natural one. I've actually had to be very careful with my shampoos since I was like in my early 20s because the sorrel sulfate that's in most shampoos that makes it foamy, that would irritate my scalp really badly. And so I had to start using natural shampoos. I've had to for the last 20 years. So I haven't used like a chemical shampoo in a really long time. This one I actually really love. And I can't, if anyone who out there has like treats their hair like highlights or anything like that, this is an amazing shampoo if you want a natural one because it's so moisturizing. It's the most moisturizing natural shampoo I've ever had, and it smells really good too. So I can't remember the name of it, but I'll put it on the list in the show notes. Yeah.
Can I ask, to me, the obvious question? Why do you use, if you have this belief system that we know you do, and you want natural things, and you just talk about this amazing shampoo, why do you then use the biggest, shittiest brand of conditioner?
Because conditioner actually isn't that big of a deal, and most natural conditioners don't do a good job of conditioning my hair.
But have you read the ingredient list on your conditioner? Or are you okay with that?
I'm okay with it. Listen,
that's a great question, though, because
I am honestly surprised.
Well, okay, first of all, I don't know why. It's not like I don't drink wine, and like that's not great for my body.
Wine is natural.
We get our hair colored.
Yeah, I get my hair colored. I still wear makeup that isn't completely natural.
I'm genuinely surprised.
Well,
you guys
I don't think
you guys are like 98% there.
Yeah, we're
not.
not.
It's like, I'm okay. All this stuff is terrible. These companies are terrible. You know what? But this one's okay. No, it's not. It's this. How is this different than any of the other conversations?
Because I don't understand why it's such a big deal. You know, like
it's not a big deal. I'm just shocked because of everything I know about you and Lisa. Okay. I was like, yeah, but I'll let that slide.
Can I talk? Can I answer your question, or do you want to keep talking? So the way I see it is
off right now.
The way I see it is that, you know, I try to do as much as I can, given the certain circumstances that we live in, to give myself as much of an advantage as possible. And also whether it's eco-friendly, animal-friendly, body-friendly, like all of those kinds of things, I always take into consideration. But, you know, like you said, if it's 98% and 2% isn't, I'll be very honest with you. In nature, everything is, so the health of our natural, okay, so if you go to the health of your intestines, the natural state is 80% good bacteria, 20% bad bacteria. Now, I will never, and this is important for you to hear this, Brian, is I will never eat fully 100% healthy all the time because it's actually not good for your immune system. Given the world that we live in, you want to still be putting certain things in your body that aren't the healthiest. And that doesn't mean like you go and have the crappiest thing, but you know, like if I were still eating meat, every now and then I'd still go have a burger, you know, or I'll have French fries. Like we had French fries. I love French fries. They're not healthy, but I freaking love them. And when I want them, I'll have them. And I don't feel bad about it because 90% of my diet is really healthy. So the other thing is that you have to understand that in order for the immune system to retain balance, it's always got to have something in there to work against to still be building up the antibodies. It's natural stuff. So to completely eradicate all things that would be deemed evil, so to speak, from a product standpoint, isn't necessarily the best thing to do. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this episode. Did you ever watch the TV show Married with Children?
Kinda.
With Peg Bundy and Al Bundy?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've
and
seen a few episodes.
So she had a personal trainer one time came in, and he was so healthy. Like he ate clean. He worked out all the time. Like he didn't touch anything that was bad for him. And then you know how she used to eat those bonbons on the couch?
Yeah.
So one day he sat there and had some bonbons with her, and he died. He died. And the reason why he died is because of the very thing I just talked about. It's so important that you maintain some level of disruption within the body so that your immune system can stay strong.
I think that you made a really good point, Nicole, about why it is sometimes that you eat French fries and other things that you know aren't necessarily good for you, because the body has to have, it's like people that use the the antibacterial stuff that they think is great, and they're rubbing it on their hands like all the time.
I use it.
But you don't use it. I hardly ever see you use it. So you use it occasionally.
Yeah.
Use it occasionally.
Once a month.
Right. Some people use it on a daily basis. I have seen people with it looped to their handbag or to their key ring, where they're just using it all the time. But your body needs to be able to build up the antibodies to kill the viruses that are coming. And it's not necessarily healthy to be killing them all. Like, it's a natural, we have tons of bugs in us that are naturally occurring.
I had heard that was a cause of some of the, if kids today are more allergy prone, they're like allergic to peanuts and all these things that nobody ever used to be allergic to. And I had heard that was one possible cause, or maybe the cause, that we're not, I was a kid, I played out in the dirt, and you never washed yourself, and it was a fight to be put in the bath and get clean. But now the environments are too clean. We're using these, like you were talking about bleach, and you look at the commercials about the cleaning products, and it kills 99.999% of everything.
But you don't want that.
Right.
Which goes to Nicole's point, what she was talking about, and how, to use a shampoo, and in fact, the shampoo that we use isn't completely clean either. So I guess I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, but I don't care.
I guess I don't either. I'm sensitive to a lot of shampoos. They make me very itchy. And sometimes if I find one, even though it may have, like, I won't get one with lauryl sulfates and things like that. But if it maybe has some other things that I don't recognize in it, I'm okay to use it, because I do believe, like Nicole said, a little bit is okay. Like, your body can handle a small amount of toxins or whatever. But the things that we're using every day on a regular basis, the lotions, the foundation type makeup.
I use conditioner every day on a regular basis.
Lipstick, things that sit on our skin, the bleaches, the ammonias, the cleaning products that we're putting on our floors, the stuff that's in the air, even scented candles and those scented air fresheners that people put into their outlets, that let off those fumes. Like, all those things aren't good for you. And, you could probably smoke one cigarette every couple of months and be perfectly fine. It's not a big deal. It's like using a shampoo or a conditioner, or maybe you use the thing on your hands every once in a while. But on a regular basis, it's just like about what you eat. Like, if you went to McDonald's every once in a while, I'm sure it wouldn't have that great of an impact on you.
Yeah. Like, when I had my laser eye surgery done when I was 24, they said, okay, do you want to, because you're awake during the surgery, and they're like, do you want us to give you Ativan just to kind of calm your nerves? And usually I would say no. But I was like, I've done a really good job of saving up my usage of this kind of stuff. Like I use it when it's absolutely like, I think it's a good idea to use it. And, you know, being calm during an eye surgery where I'm awake and I can see everything that they're doing to my eyes, I thought Ativan was a good choice. And so I said, yeah, you know, bring it on. And so like, there's things like that where, you know, you create balance. And so for the most part, try to use as many healthy products as I can. I try to eat as healthy as I can. We all are drinking a gallon of distilled water every day. So, you know, that's detoxing us on a regular basis so that when I go to have something that isn't necessarily healthy or isn't the greatest thing, I don't feel bad about it because I've done such a good job of taking care of myself for the majority. So that's just
but those are all once in a while things that you're talking about, and obviously I'm doing a terrible job of communicating here because you can't understand my shock. And even after what you just described, Lisa, things that we use every day, you want to be natural. So it's the and I get that once in a while. Conditioner is an everyday thing. I don't think it falls into the once in a while category. The whole point of conditioner is you put it on your hair and you let it set and soak in. So you're putting this chemical on your scalp and letting it set and soak in. That's all I'm saying is I'm surprised.
Yeah, but also you have to understand that the conditioner that I'm putting on, I'm not putting it on at the roots. I'm putting it on at the ends of my hair.
Either. I only put it at the ends.
Yeah, and I only wash my hair maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Mm.
Yeah, and I try not to put it on my scalp. I actually do try to just put it on the ends. That's where my hairdresser said that's really the only place you need it anyway.
How do you keep it off of your scalp?
I don't rub it into my scalp. I just put a little. My hair is long, and then I just kind of put it on the ends. You have short hair, so there's really no way for you to keep it off.
And maybe that's why I don't understand, because I'm thinking this is on me.
Yeah. So we don't really get it into our scalp like you do, but it still, you know, runs down your body and touches your skin. And I mean, it's a valid point. It's definitely something to consider, finding a better solution to that. And I think
coconut oil.
I think I do coconut oil actually often so that I don't have to use conditioner all the time. Like I'll just rub coconut oil on my hands before, you know, like in the evening when I know I'm done going out or whatever, and I put a little bit on my head and wrap my hair up in a bun or something.
And that's definitely one product we should mention. Coconut oil is the many splendid product.
Yeah, if you don't know about coconut oil, Google that, because we discovered yesterday, or I just figured it out yesterday, but that it's better than butter because Brian's now dairy-free. So I spread coconut oil on the toast.
It was so good.
It was so good. Tastes like cinnamon sugar. Brian said this is actually...
It kind of reminded me of eating like cinnamon sugar toast because there's a little bit of sweetness to it, and you've got the oil. And just, you know, if you're not familiar with coconut oil, when you buy a jar of it, it's solid. It's semi-solid. It's soft. It's like it's like when you leave butter out.
Lard.
Yeah. It's not a a liquid like olive oil.
Well, it depends on how warm your house is. So when I was in Cayman, it always was because our house was 80 degrees.
That's true.
That's an interesting
Mine
point.
does get liquid in the summer up in the bathroom because I use that as my lotion. So I got rid of recently. I was using a lotion that had more stuff in it than I realized, and it had wheat in it. And I found out recently I'm allergic to wheat, not gluten, but wheat. So I got rid of my lotion, and I just strictly use coconut oil now for my body lotion. And I use it on my face a lot as well.
You use it to take off your makeup?
I use it to take off my makeup.
And also for the listeners, if you're consuming coconut oil, it's important to know that it's one of those really healthy fats that doesn't actually adhere to your body as fat. It burns off immediately as energy. So
really?
Yeah, coconut fat is one of those fats that doesn't store as fat on your body.
That's why it was significantly, well, not significantly, but they talked about it, again, in that movie that we recommended at the beginning, The Magic Pill. That's what they recommended cooking in was coconut oil, and that must be why.
Well, that's one of the reasons. The reason why they're telling you to cook with coconut oil is because it has a higher heat capacity, so it won't become carcinogenic till a much higher heat than olive oil.
Huh.
So you can actually cook with coconut oil and it still maintains its structure and all of that, and it doesn't go rancid or turn carcinogenic up until 400 degrees.
And so we learned that any of the like corn oils or even oils made from like sunflower seeds and things that have to use, is it temperature to really get the extract the oil?
It has to go through some sort of process, you know, some sort of chemical intense process or high heat process or high pressure.
So you want to stay away from all those types of cooking oils where avocado oil, olive oil, and coconut oil do not have to go through that process. So
there are some products that do. So everyone look out. You don't want refined coconut oil. You want your
it has to be virgin.
You want it to be cold pressed. So there are some ways that they'll screw around with your better options. I've seen it with coconut oil and
olive oil.
Well,
too.
even product labeling. I mean, you know, just not even the word, you know, natural flavoring, but this was also something that we learned recently. You know, that usually if they're trying to make these big bold claims on the front cover of whatever product, you know, it's probably not. I think it was eggs that we were looking at. You know, it says, oh, you know, this is all natural.
Cage-free.
All natural doesn't mean anything. Cage-free doesn't mean anything. You want it to say
organic,
and you want it to say free range.
And same with like your meats. You want your meats to be free range, grass-fed.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because I was actually thinking about this. Lisa, by the way, just had red meat recently.
First time in like
a long time.
I don't know. I quit eating red meat when I was 18 and I'm almost 50.
So
it was the first steak I've had.
We went out and bought you know, a grass-fed steak. But I was even thinking about that. Just knowing how most companies want to screw you over. Because at the end of the day, all they want is your money. They don't really care about you as a customer.
That's the epiphany everyone needs to have.
Right. They only want your money. They don't care about you as a human being.
And they're trying to trick you.
Okay. So the idea that it says grass-fed, well, I can still have a shitty pen of cattle and give them grass. And guess what? That's grass-fed.
Right.
So, you know, I guess unless you get into eating only Wagyu beef where they're getting massages and, you know, they get sake and, you know, all those great little things that...
It's hard. It's just, you know, I think the hardest part is you have to take it into your own hands and you have to dig deeper.
You have to ask the question.
You have to ask the question. You have to do the research. You just can't take it off faith that, you know, because it's on a shelf or it's being sold at the market or it says natural, like this may not be true. This still may not be good for you. So. And
I didn't know any of this stuff. I mean, it's just amazing. You know, when Nicole was just talking about the properties of coconut oil, I'm like, I mean, you know, you can scratch the surface, and there's so much information.
I feel like I've been learning since I was 17. I've, you know, intuitively known these things, but I raised a family, and in that time, you know, I sometimes used great, you know, natural cleaning products, and then I kind of fell off the wagon a little, and you know, for the most part, tried to feed my family healthy things, but then there was processed foods in there too, and I think it's easier today than it was 25 years ago, but it's something that you have to do the research and.
But you can change it. I mean, I obviously was raised in the Midwest, and it was all crap, and you know. I think you two have both said this. You come to this like self-realization. You know, it's like, well, that doesn't seem right. And for me, that's what I realized about food at probably when I was in college, you know, that I realized what real food was. And I've always given my parents a hard time about what they're, you know, eating, and it's not real food. And that was not education. I didn't go out to learn about what real food is. I just realized, oh, this is better.
I think some people, I don't know, like Nicole, you just at 17, or like you said, had this inner knowing, as well as I did. I mean, I was raised in the same family as my 7 other siblings, and I'm the only one, at 17 who was like, just, this doesn't feel right to me. So I think, some of us come with that intuitive knowledge, and others just really are, clueless. But, I want to say to it, no fault of their own, because of the just intense programming that we have been put through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, like, even my first thing was, I don't want to take Tylenol when I have my period cramps, and everyone would be like, well, just take Tylenol. And I'm like, well, I don't want to just constantly take Tylenol every month because I'm in a bit of discomfort. It's like, I'd rather just go through the discomfort and be with my body and understand why it's, and I never actually experienced major cramping the way like some women, girls that I knew, couldn't function. They couldn't get out of bed. They couldn't go to school. They couldn't like do anything. And I just didn't know what that was like. And, part of me wonders, like, is it because I didn't, allow these medications to keep numbing me? And so that I just, when it did happen, I don't know. Like, I think that's part of it. I don't think it's the full thing, because I think all of our bodies react differently to different things. And obviously our own pain tolerance is all uniquely different too. And so, but like for me, it was that. And then the next thing was McDonald's. Ate a burger, didn't like it, almost threw up in my mouth. And from that day on, I never ate McDonald's again.
It was Wendy's for me.
Lisa had the exact same experience.
With Wendy's. I was going to say something about, just lost my train of thought.
Well, yeah. And so like, for me, like fast food was just, I was like, nope, I'd rather not. If I'm going to have a burger, I'd actually want to have a good burger, and if I'm going to have French fries, I actually want them to not be bleached and cooked in, God knows what other kind of fats that McDonald's was cooking them in, so like there's so many things that happen, and then you just follow your own guidance. You start listening to your body, and that's actually one of the best ways to start tuning into that higher self. You just start listening to what your body's trying to tell you. And like Lisa said, like her back pain has taught her to listen to her body more. Our body has so much to teach us. There's so much wisdom to impart on us if we actually just take the time to listen, be silent, and try things out. Like it doesn't mean you're going to figure the answer out on the first go. It means, but you might want to do trial and error with things. Is this the one thing that maybe is causing this issue? And maybe it's not, but it's like, you start fiddling around with things. You start becoming like a little human experiment with yourself.
That when you're talking about period cramps and why someone might have them worse or why yours were less or whatever, I was amazed. We bought this book after watching The Magic Pill. The guy, he's a chef who
made the movie.
Who made the movie, and he has a book out called Gut Health, and we can put that in the show notes. But I was amazed to read that what leaky gut syndrome, some of the things that it causes, and I think I mentioned it said MS on there and Alzheimer's, but also it did mention the menstrual cycle and extreme cramping and things. So
eczema, which I have, and I have leaky gut, and it just goes to show you that you watch TV for an hour, and half the commercials you see are probably going to be. So it's either about food
or pills,
or it's going to be about pills. I mean, that's all it is. And my sister-in-law, wicked smart, oncologist.
21 years of schooling,
studies,
not including high school,
the curing of cancer, right? And we were talking about it. It's the wrong focus. And we were Lisa and I were on a walk the other day, and there's a saying that we all know: an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound to cure. And yet, this goes right back to what we were talking about. What is medicine? Who are doctors today? They're being trained on the cure, but an ounce of prevention is worth more than that. So why isn't the medical profession focusing on the preventative medicine? And it's not. It's absolutely not.
And his sister-in-law is as brilliant as she is. It just, her own health, you can see it. She hasn't, made that connection. I'm like, she's doing such a great job giving up her life and her time to be a service to others and help to cure cancer. But at the same time, the focus is in the wrong place, because so much of cancer can be cured from just what's being put in your mouth, the products that you're putting on your body, and the stuff that you're using around your house.
It's mind-boggling to think that you can cure cancer just by changing your diet. It's just mind-boggling.
As well as cardiovascular disease and diabetes. And if you watch this movie, The Magic Pill,
and autism.
It's like 4 different people and how they changed their diet, and then the effect that it had on them and their illnesses. It would
the one woman in there that had diabetes and was cured within 10 weeks.
I think it was 5 weeks.
5 weeks. She was cured.
And she was
of
spending
diabetes.
$1,000 a month on medication for her diabetes. 5 weeks gone. I mean, that's a $12,000 a year raise she got.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, just that kind of stuff blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Yeah, so like to all our listeners out there, hopefully this show was helpful in helping you understand like some of the products that we use and how we've gotten to where we've gotten to with our health and why we make certain choices that we do. And if any of it resonates, if it resonates with you, then I would say, try it or look into it. If it doesn't resonate with you, go with that. Don't do it because we've said to do it or this is what we're doing. It's really important to listen to your own body because our bodies are all unique. So for instance, what might be working for Brian may not work for me because of the certain chemical composition within my body and genetics. There's all these different things. So it's so important to listen to yourself. But, we'll leave all of this stuff in the show notes. It'll be a very lengthy show notes. And I would suggest going over to our website to click on this particular episode to get all the information because there's only so much I'll be able to put in the show notes in iTunes that will show up, I think, as a link. I'm not sure. But just in case, if you don't find everything, then just go over to our website, enlightenup.us /podcast, and you should find the episode there. So
and if you guys have any suggestions for an episode, let us know. Obviously, this was a suggestion, an email from a listener. So we're happy to talk about things that you guys are interested in.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you and know what's kind of burning away at your brain and what you'd like to know more information about. And we're happy to offer whatever we can and share more experiences because we're never at a loss for that.
Or if you have a great story, we love to have our listeners on as guests as well. If there's something that you want to share or, something that you've gone through, then possibly we could do a show with you.
Yeah. So all of that, you can send in all of that information to info@enlightenup.us. And we check our emails regularly. And we'd love to have anyone on or just even hear your suggestions. So thanks so much. And thanks, Lisa and Brian, for being here and sharing your beautiful insights.
Thanks, Nicole.
All right, everyone. We'll catch you next week. And Michael will be back with us. So until then, bye.
Bye.
Bye.